Eternals fails as a Marvel movie. It's slower, bleak looking, and lacks any kind of relatable stakes. But chances are you've already heard this argument, and if you enjoyed the film, your counter-argument is most likely, oh, you can't accept change, you just want to be in your comfort zone and never want to see these filmmakers try anything new. First of all, I would make the argument that the MCU has been trying several new things between being culturally diverse and expanding to new mediums like streaming series. And second, what Eternals is trying to do, it fails just as badly at. Right down to getting Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao, Eternals feels like an attempt to put an art house film in the superhero genre, and while an ambitious idea that's been toyed with in both superhero films and art house films, but never really to this extent, it falls flat on its face in this department just as much as being an MCU film. So today, I'm taking a look at why Eternals fails not as an MCU film, not as a superhero film, but as an art house film. Now, I know there's a difference between an art house film and an independent film or a low-budget thriller, but for the sake of this video, I'm using the term art house film as an umbrella term for a film that doesn't have a huge studio budget behind it, like not even 30 million, and while still a business pursuit and still needing to make some sort of profit, is mostly there to get a film and potentially a few awards onto a director's filmography so they can move on to something bigger like, well, an MCU film. Films like Whiplash, Drive, Under the Skin, Room, Safety Not Guaranteed, you get the idea. Honestly, as much as people keep debating if Eternals was made for the critics or the audiences, I don't think it was either. I think the studio got so excited that Black Panther got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars that they wanted their next film, or, rather than one of their next films, to win Best Picture, similar to Disney with Beauty and the Beast and Pocahontas. So I feel like this is the best comparison. But I digress. On to the video. Eternals, from my perspective, is trying to be an art house version of the Avengers, essentially a team of superheroes grouping up to save the world. Now, many people may instantly point towards the fact that the Avengers all each had their own movie prior, and we have never seen the Eternals before. But a little home runner named Guardians of the Galaxy proved that a team-up can still be accomplished if we never met these characters before. But that's because in that movie, the characters' personalities are flamboyant enough that we can know their conflicts, interests, and arcs in a second. The reason this doesn't work in the art house realm, or at least the super serious art house realm that the Eternals takes place in, is because the personalities of these characters are so reserved and one-note that we don't understand them quickly enough. Now, this reservation has worked for actors like Ryan Gosling or Miles Teller, or for quieter performances from actors like Scarlett Johansson and Sam Rockwell, but that's because we got to know these characters better because they were the sole focus of a full story. The films, at least the ones with a cohesive plot, were simple stories with one protagonist and one antagonist. Eternals has so many characters with their own plot lines that could have made for their own halfway decent art house films that I was beginning to think that each of them were the same characters copied over. They're reduced to the bare basic characterizations to make room for everyone, and because they're too serious to crack a joke or have any expression other than monotone, we don't get to know the characters as well as the plot thinks that we do. My advice? Get to know the plot structures you're copying before you copy them. There's nothing more pathetic than a film thinking it has more to say than it actually does. Eternals has several moments where it acts like the moment that we're about to see is impactful and dramatic, but the constant problem is that it never earns any of those moments. The entire plot is centered around the death of their previous leader, but since we never got to know any of the characters or their relations to each other, or especially the dead leader, we never feel the weight of the situation. There's one part where a character is taking a taboo action, and he says, "If you want to stop me, you'll have to kill me." And all I'm thinking is, why should I care if this character dies? Again, by staying simpler and more focused, other art house films like Room or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind managed to stay more meaningful and insightful because they know exactly what they're trying to say and how to say it. When their messages hit, they wham you over the head with, "Oh, I get it now!" And that's because they spent the entire film focused on that one message. The theme of a film, much like any other aspect of storytelling, has more complexity than its simplicity lets on, and the reason that Arthouse films have earned the reputation of being so intelligent and insightful is because they take the time to explore the complexities of a simple message. Eternals feels like it's trying to say too much in one movie because it doesn't care what it says as long as it comes off as meaningful, and as a result of trying to come off meaningful without actually being meaningful, it's just meaningless. But by far the biggest problem with trying to make an MCU film an arthouse film is that being an MCU film, or even just a blockbuster film, puts too many restraints on it. Since arthouse films already know they're not going to reach the masses, at least not right away, they typically have the filmmakers go as crazy as they want to be. I mean, look at this recent A24 film. It's a shell with shoes. An MCU film, on the other hand, has to reach the masses to make its budget back, which, yes, I do believe just as much that the masses need to be challenged and many times seek to be challenged by what they watch, but while a few select filmmakers have succeeded in pushing this envelope, Hollywood as a whole hasn't quite fully figured this out yet, so we get guidelines that need to be met. For instance, the off-the-wall artistry of something like The Tree of Life or Eraserhead, you can forget that. A blockbuster needs to be cohesive, accessible, and have a 3-act structure. The brutal violence and intimidating cursing of something like Drive and Whiplash respectively, PG-13 that son of a gun. No one ever sees a profane R-rated film. Oh wait! Eternals has a few moments that are supposed to be glossy and artistic, I think. And it thinks, keyword being thinks, it's dealing with heavy issues that make it seem ambitious, but the safety restraints of needing to be accessible to the masses in both comprehension and cohesion, if you can even call it that, and needing to hold off on shock value, result in Chloe's niches not being entirely compatible with Kevin Feige's template. Whether you look at Eternals as an MCU film or a serious artistic take on the genre, it doesn't work in any way. It's a hollow shell that looks pretty, but has no substance to it. It demonstrates just how incompatible the two types of films it's trying to be at the same time are, between the restraints of being a blockbuster and the desire from the director to be more meaningful than it really is, as many messages and characters as it's trying to hold. If you enjoy it, don't let me take that away from you, but for me, it's undoubtedly an empty MCU film and arthouse film. But what are your thoughts on Eternals? Do you agree with my criticisms, or is there more to the film that I'm letting on? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more great content, as I have fresh takes on this channel every Friday, as well as quick reviews of the latest releases. I'm CM Waters, and I'll see you soon.